Hi there, and welcome to the Multiply You podcast, where we showcase top experts in their space and reveal all the secrets you need to know to multiply you.
Hey, everybody. Happy Monday. Austin Clark here, host of the Multiply You podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today, we've got a wonderful guest, Tom Howard. He's the vice president right now of customer experience at ServiceTitan, and we'll introduce him here in just a moment. This message in this episode, like all of them are, is brought to you by Moxie Pest Control. As everyone knows by now, we're growing. We're looking to be able to continue to grow. We grow all of the same ways that you do. And recently, we've started to grow via acquisition. Specifically in Arizona, we have found that there are so many entrepreneurs that have been in the business and the industry forever, and they're looking to see what the next page or chapter of their lives look like. And we found that we fill a really, really neat need there. And so if you know anybody that's got at least 3, 4, 5 or more vehicles on the road, specifically in Arizona, real reputable brand, get them in contact with me. They can call me or text me directly at 480-254-9730. They could email me directly at aclark@moxiepestcontrol.com too. We'd love the opportunity to be able to talk to them. We're probably meeting and having calls with people about once a week or every other week. And so it's been kind of a neat thing. Tom Howard of ServiceTitan is here with us today. Wanted to give a shout out to our mutual friend, Tommy Mello, who introduced us a little while ago. Tommy is very bold. He'll just kind of march into your place of business without an appointment. I don't know if he's ever made an appointment, and just kind of introduce people and just say, "Hey, I thought you guys should meet." And that was kind of the same thing that happened with Tom Howard, who's on, and I, and it's been a neat relationship ever since. Tom Howard is an experienced president and serial entrepreneur with a demonstrated history of working in the consumer service industry. Very, very skilled in business forecasting and planning, marketing strategy, lean management, leadership, and business management training. He's got a degree in finance from Brigham Young University. He is currently the owner of Lee's Air and Plumbing and Heating out of Fresno, California, as well as Dustin Pest Control. Tom is the VP of Customer Experience at ServiceTitan, like I said. When he's not busy working and doing all of the rest of these things, he's spending time with his wonderful wife, his 4 sons, that are ages 11 to 1. So he's very, very busy there. And they reside normally in Glendale, California, except currently you're on a project in Armenia. And so welcome to the show, Tom. Thank you so much. And how are you doing today? And what the heck is going on in Armenia right now?
I'm doing pretty well. It's actually tonight, my time. I'm working on a project for ServiceTitan. We have a development team out here that does development design, a lot of engineering stuff, data science, and we have about 150 people in Armenia. So I'm working with specifically our data science team for the next another month and a half while I'm out here. It's amazing, though, that we can have this conversation on opposite sides of the world, and I can even see you on Zoom as we speak. I mean, this is just nuts to think about.
Yeah, and I think it's about 8:25 or so p.m. your time there in Armenia. It's like 9:30 a.m. in Phoenix, my time, and so kind of a neat thing that we're able to do that. So, I mean, we'll kind of introduce our topic. We really want to be able to talk a lot more today about how you can, and you've really, really mastered this, but really how you can own a company, be a manager inside of a company or a lead inside of a company, but not really need to be there all the time. Not because you're not needed necessarily, but how to continue to have that thing. I mean, for example, you own 2 very, very successful companies in California. You're not in California right now. And so we'll want to talk a lot more either about the tools or the philosophies or the practices that you've developed, employed, deployed to be able to have you be on a project in Armenia. And it's not like you're there for a week. I mean, I think that you shared that you're there for a couple of months sort of thing. And so it's not like, all right, people in California, take care of everything. I'll be back in a week. I can handle anything when I get back. But I mean, those things are going and they're on auto control and you're gone for months. You're going to be gone for many months. And you've obviously got the confidence to be able to do that. But before we get into that, I mean, maybe rewind it. Tell us a little bit more. I mean, you own these 2 companies, these home service companies. you are doing what you're doing at ServiceTitan right now. It's kind of a newer role the last year and a half.
Yep.
I mean, how did all of that come about? How do you get to owning or running an HVAC company and then a pest control company, which couldn't be two different industries, perhaps, other than that they're in home service, and then to this opportunity that I know you're having a blast at with ServiceTitan?
Sure. Yeah. Fell into air conditioning on accident. I was told when I was 15 years old by my mom that I had to get a job, and some guy came over to fix my refrigerator, and I asked him for a job, and he put me to work cleaning tools and sweeping floors and cleaning out trucks at the end of the day. Um, One thing led to another. After I got out of college, I um, ended up getting the opportunity to purchase the company that I was working for. And the owner was gracious. He carried the note on that first purchase. So it allowed me to make payments to him while I was buying the business. And it was a smaller company at the time, and it grew. We were about 1.6 million in sales back then, 1.8 the next year. And then it grew over time. And now this year we should be doing about 25 million. At least that's what we're pacing for. So, and we're about 5 months into the year, so I'm still hopeful. And but about 4 years into that, I ended up purchasing ServiceTitan. So I was a customer of theirs, and we used it a lot. We live about 4 hours north of Los Angeles, where ServiceTitan is based. And when I would have an issue, I'd drive down to Los Angeles and I'd meet with them and show them what was going on. I got to know them pretty well, and we had that relationship for 4 or 5 years. And as my business kept growing, and shameless plug for ServiceTitan there. I mean, I really honestly couldn't have done it without that software, but I was able to see things remotely. And this isn't just a advertorial for ServiceTitan. I'll talk more about that growth, but since I could see things remotely, I could pretty much run my business from just about anywhere. And I started doing some consulting, and a lot of the people I consulted for were ServiceTitan users. And about that time, I also got the opportunity to purchase a pest control company. And I always wanted to own a pest control company. To be honest, I just love the business model. The recurring revenue model is just fantastic. And quite frankly, the multiples that are paid to people that sell their pest control companies are much higher than the air conditioning industry in most cases.
Why is that?
It has to do with the basically the risk involved. So when you buy any company that doesn't have recurring revenue, you're going to have to go out and generate new customers and new money every year. Anytime you buy a company with recurring revenue, now this includes pest control and software, by the way, you have a lot less risk. You've got built-in revenues coming in next year, and every investor wants, well, with any investment, the lower the risk you have, the more you're typically willing to pay. So you get much better returns for dollar of revenue in any business that has recurring revenue. And then even then, obviously, the multiples change depending on how long those customers have been there, how many of them churn, and things like that. And every investor has their own secret sauce there. But in general, you generally get more money for a recurring revenue model. It's also, by the way, that's why we started pulling away from doing termite work for all of you pest control people that are out there. All the work that we were putting in, and I thought, well, I mean, I'm getting the money right now, but the long-term value of my business isn't really there with this termite work. We still do termite work and we do limited inspections, but we've kind of avoided the real estate.
I try to tell people the same time. I think that sometimes they think that I'm being either disingenuous, but I'm like, look, I know that it's shiny and it's $1,000 now or $3,000 now, but then it's gone and it's realized, and that's it. And so you'd probably be better off just being better at focusing on whatever industry you're in, like the recurring stuff. There's just more value there.
Yeah. And it really, the interesting thing is I mentioned that I was doing consulting for a lot of people, and a lot of them have to be ServiceTitan users. And then what happened was I got offered a position to come there and work as an executive. And when I got there, the real impact of that recurring model really hit me. And software means everything. And I remember talking to Ara, he's the CEO. Now, keep in mind, I'm used to, my company at the time was a $18 million revenue company, about 17 million, I think. And for air conditioning, that's getting pretty big. It's not, definitely not huge. We have customers in the hundreds of millions. But getting up there, and you think you know what you're doing, right? And then I'm talking to this guy that now ServiceTitan just got valued at 8 billion. And I said, hey, we could do this model where, we could do XYZ and it could get us this revenue. He said, yeah, but it's not recurring. And I said, well, yeah, but it's 10 million or 20 million of revenue, whatever. And it was actually we can sell one-off things or we can sell recurring revenue. Anyway, he just looks at me and said, Tom, why would we only have a fixed amount of resources. Why would we spend these resources going after something that is non-recurring, that we have to fight for every year, that we have to struggle with, and then it doesn't add value to our business either, to our business valuation? Why wouldn't we focus on our core principles and our core product and make sure that the core product that everyone's paying for every month is as good as it can be, so we can get more of those people that are paying for us every month? And I thought, wow, that's kind of crazy. And I thought about my pest control company. I thought, man, I'm taking resources, my own brain share here, and I'm going out and, putting it on things that I'm going to have that customer once, they're going to pay their bill and they're going to move on to the next thing. Right. And I'm probably, if we do our job well, let's say we do a, fumigation on termite, they're never going to call us again. Whereas if I've got another customer that's going to want to see me every single month, and sure, it's not as much money up front, but it's going to be recurring. After that, it kind of shocked me. And that's when I realized, okay, I've got to focus. I've got to be a businessman here and not, just a side job guy. And that's really what I look at it as. I can do side jobs on the weekend. I can go put in someone's furnace on my own and I can make $2,000 on a Saturday. No problem. Would I ever do that? No. Why? Well, because it's unsustainable. I've got to go out there. I need to build a business. I need to focus on what that business is. Now, if you've got a great way of getting a ton of termite and you're really, really good at it, better than anyone else, and you've found a structured way to do it, then good, do that. For me, definitely building that recurring pest model is just fantastic.
And so back to some of your time. So you still own Lee's Air out of California. You still own Dustin Pest Control. You're definitely not in California right now. You have your role that, gobbles up or consumes X% of the professional time that you've got available at ServiceTitan. And so, when did it start to happen, or when did you start to realize, hey, my time is limited, like everybody's is. I need to start making either some changes or doing some things, or, was there an event that had happened, or was part of it this opportunity at ServiceTitan? How did that happen, and how did you make more time for yourself?
Yeah, so I always told my staff, they'd always say, you only have so much time, and I always told them that was a lie, and they'd say, no, like it's physics, like there's only so many hours in the day, and I said, yeah, but I can always buy time. No, you can't. I said, yeah, I can. I can hire 10 people and each of them work 8 hours a day. That's 80 hours. I just bought 80 hours. I can do that. And it's partially true. You can't buy time with your kids. You can't pay someone to spend time with your kids and say, okay, we're fine with that. But at your business, if I realized, I thought, man, if I could just delegate this properly and if I could train well, then I think I could do it. And I know everyone says that, it's very cliche. And I like to point out, by the way, for the past year and a half, I've been working at ServiceTitan. I actually lived in LA and my business was in Fresno. It's 4 hours away. So yeah, I'm gone for 2 months right now. But before this, I was gone for a year and a half. And I would come in once every month, maybe once. For a while there, I was going once a week for about 2 months. But most of the time it was once a month, once every 2 months, and check in, and then I'd leave. I'd have some Zoom meetings to check in on numbers, but that's it. And I don't have a partner in Lee's. I do have partners in Dustin, but they're silent partners. They don't work there. And I know that people say, yeah, but that never works. And you train somebody, then they steal from you and they leave and whatever. And I think part of the issue is that we always talk about, I've got to build processes. Well, when I go into businesses and when I was consulting for them, I'd say, have you built these procedures? Yes, I have. Okay, where are they? Oh, they're in this binder and they're on the shelf and they've got like an inch of dust on them and no one remembers them and no one pays attention to them. The first issue that I see people run into is they write procedures because that's like what they were told to do, and they're not easily followed. They don't make any sense. And no one pays attention to them. And the second thing is, if you do build procedures and you get people to follow them, a lot of times people they focus on, well, if I want people to listen to me and follow me, I've got to hire for great character. Sure, I don't doubt that. You've got procedures now. You want people that have great character follow them. The reality of the situation is that we're all human beings. We all make mistakes. Nobody wants to read a procedure out of a book. I don't care who you are. I don't care how great your character is. You don't want to. So if you do that, you're always going to have these ways that, people just don't follow and do it the way you want them to do it. So what I tell them is you got to make sure that the incentive is there, that it just makes sense for them to follow the procedure that you make in the process. I get all these business owners that come to me and they say, they just don't think like I do and they don't act like I do and they don't make the decisions that I would. But okay, well, do you let them see the financials of your company? Well, no, of course not. Okay. Have you given them any leadership training? No. Have you given them any financial training? No. Okay, so you don't give them the information the owner has. You don't give them the training that the owner would need. And then you expect them to act like a business owner and think like a business owner. So what I do is I say, okay, build the procedures, make them in a way that they have the right incentives, just like a business owner would have. So, and then give them, the third thing is give them the training and the knowledge so that they can think like a business owner. Now, if they have the training and the knowledge and they have the incentive, it just makes sense for them to do these things the way they want. And a perfect example is that every one of the managers in my business, they get paid a bonus based on the profitability of their department. And they get paid a bonus based on the gross margin of their department. The general manager that oversees the whole thing gets paid a bonus based on the net profit. So each person gets paid based on the thing that they can control. Then once they have that incentive and they know that they, want to make more money, everyone wants to make more money, right? No matter what anyone says, you want to make more money. You might not want to sacrifice certain things for that. That's okay. But we like to make more money with doing less work. That's just standard.
It's a thing. It's a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing. And then you show them the procedures, like this is how you get there. And then you give them the training on how to pull it off. And they're going to hustle really hard to follow that to make it happen so that they can make more money and feed their families. And once we had that in place, sure, we got to hire for character. Yes, we got to hire for good attitude. Yes, we have to do all those things. But we have to make sure that we're all in the same boat. So when I win, they win. And it's really worked out pretty well. We've really been growing since I've been gone. In fact, we started growing a little bit more after I was gone. So maybe that should tell me something. Maybe I was the guy dragging it down.
Yeah, you should move, leave more often, right? Take more time off, go on other projects.
maybe I had maybe I was the anchor slowing the place down. I don't know. It's entirely possible.
Yeah, so. That's funny. So some of the things that I heard then, processes, they're good. Oftentimes they're there because it's what we were told to do. Lots of dust on them. People don't really follow them. And then on top of that, there's just a holistic lack of training, whether it be leadership training, managerial training, and then data to be able to make good decisions, whether that's financial, whether that's what's going on in the marketplace, right? There's this expectation to act as if an owner would, but none of the information to even have them begin to know what that is or know what that looks like.
And then the incentive to drive it. So if you have the procedure, so the plan, and then you have the knowledge on how to execute it, and then you have the incentive on the reason that you would want to do it, then you put those three things together and they can really take off.
And so you talked about gross margin for those that are managing departments specifically, and then net profit for either your general manager or, whoever that person might
president,
be, or that
whatever
president. There you go. what else? I mean, to allow you to be on projects like you are now, and I don't know if you're spending 10% of your professional time at Dustin right now and 5% at Lee's and the rest of these other places. But I mean, were there other pieces of technology that you used? ServiceTitan, you talked about that, but any other incentives, any other technologies, any other things that were helpful to you to either buy you more time or provide you more time?
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be a new shiny object that comes along with technology, and I think the piece that um, I'd have to add to kind of encompass those is, this is going to sound weird, and I'll get to the reason why. It's empowerment of your employees and trusting them. So that's really the hardest part of this whole thing. I gave them all those pieces, but I was still there when I gave them those pieces, right? So I could kind of see and make sure that they were doing it, that kind of thing. What took a little while is getting to the point where I could trust them to make their own decisions. And a lot of times they would come to me and say, Tom, what should I do here? Hey, Tom, this new piece of technology came out. What do you think? Hey, Tom, I think this is a cool idea. What do you think? Um, Over time, I started realizing if I gave them my opinion, one, I had to realize that maybe my opinion wasn't the best opinion. Maybe they had a better idea. And number two, I didn't want to bias their ideas. So I tell them, you know what? I don't know. What do you think? And they would tell me, and I'd say, okay, do that. And sometimes it killed me inside to say, go ahead and do that, because I really thought it was a bad idea. And then they'd surprise me and it was something great. So we haven't had besides, and I'm not just plugging ServiceTitan for this, it's really ServiceTitan was game changing and with what it did for our business and allowed us to automate a lot of stuff. If I didn't have ServiceTitan right now, I'd probably have to hire 15 or 20 extra employees to handle the stuff that we were able to automate. But there's all these little things that come up and new advertising campaigns that come out, or new marketing ideas, new widgets and gadgets that do different things we could sell to our customer that we could upsell. You can't be there to make all those decisions if you're truly gonna, go do something else, whatever that something else is. And you need to have people and you need to trust your people to look at each thing, evaluate it, make a decision and execute if they need to. And if they truly believe that is going to make them more money for their bonus, they're going to do it. And they're not going to spend your money unwisely. So, we do the same stuff that most people do: Google local services, Google PPC, Yelp campaigns, Home Advisor. We do direct mail still. We do, radio, pretty much a lot of things. We're up now to about $100,000 a month in marketing. So that'll be about 1.2 million this year in marketing expense on 25 million in revenue. It leaves air, plumbing, and heating. And so I don't know what that comes out to. It's like 6%, 5.5%, 6% of revenue on marketing. And we don't really have any other special things that we're doing, but new things come up all the time.
Yeah, they really do. And I like to think that some of those new things, like they really are just like shiny objects disguised as opportunities, because a lot of them aren't. And like you said, I mean, just your mind share, your brain share in thinking about, well, what's the cost? What's the return? How will it work? How will I be able to integrate it with what I'm currently doing? And I've got to train and those sorts of things. Another thing that I wanted to point to, you won't because you're humble. I will because I'm not necessarily, but it's not like when 10 or so years ago, when you had the opportunity at Lee's, certainly not like a distressed asset, but I mean, it has come a long way since then. And then the same thing with Dustin's, 5 or so years ago. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, there were many, 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 not just have you scaled them in like a hyper growth kind of way, and in a way that outperforms the average, the industry average in each of those industries by 3, 4, 5, sometimes 10 times in a given year. But to be able to do that and have profit, to be able to do that and have money left over, which is wonderful. I mean, it seems like you've certainly like honed a lot of your skills over the years, but it doesn't seem like you were doing everything wrong at the beginning either. And so, I mean, what did some of those, I hate to say like turnarounds, but I mean, how did you make both those companies more than what they were then? And were they the same things at both companies, or were they different things?
Yeah, there's a book that I read quite often that says everything line upon line, precept upon precept. And I think you and I both know what that book is. But the funny thing is I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, and that's one of the sayings we use when we talk about religious things. But if you read TB12, Tom Brady's book, his personal trainer happens to be a member of the church as well. And I read in Tom Brady's book, and he keeps saying line upon line, precept upon precept about all the stuff he does. I really laugh because I know where that's coming from. And I think, as a smaller business, when you're growing, you literally, you really learn line upon line, precept upon precept. And someone basically told me, it's right before I finished college, that I should be making goals every year for continuing education and other stuff. I have spiritual goals, career goals, education goals, finance goals, home and family goals. And I would write them up on a piece of paper, and I'd put them on my mirror. And my first one in college, I put it on my front door, but everyone would see it when they left my house. So I started putting it on my mirror, so I'd see it every day. And I do them yearly, and then I have 4-year goals. And on each one of those, I always made sure that I always had my education goals wrapped around, business education. I started this process in 2009. So now it's 2021 when we're recording this, 12 years into it. And every year I take the piece of paper off, I journal at the end of the year what my goal completion percentage was, and what roadblocks I ran into, and those kind of things. And what I should do next year to try to get those goals to be better. And I've tried doing, less goals and more goals, and I try different things. But I've always had a goal to read at least 5 business books every year. And I found, and a lot of people told me this, as you grow your business at different levels, as you grow, you run into different roadblocks. Something that wasn't a problem at $1 million in sales, now all of a sudden is a big problem at $5 million in sales. For instance, you don't have your general management figured out, or maybe you don't have a middle management layer figured out, or you don't have forecasting figured out. My forecasting abilities were not as good when I just got out of college as they are now. When I forecast now, I can get within 5 or 10% every single month of exactly what we're going to hit, all the way to get there. And my ability to, with that forecasting getting better, I figured out how to hire better and train better, because I was able to figure out when people would become profitable. In a pest control industry, if you're if June rolls around and you realize that you need more technicians, it's a bit late. I mean, it's the middle of the season and things are going, and you're gonna have to find them and hire them and train them, and then you got to get the truck, and you got to get it wrapped, and it's just, you've really got to start thinking ahead. So each piece, I mean, I learned something. I learned how to fire people better. I learned how to hire people better. But I think that you're always going to run into different things. And I think the key piece to get back to is make sure you're setting goals every year. Make sure they're in a visible place. Make sure that you're learning the whole time, because you're going to learn line upon line, precept upon precept. And go back and even reread a book if you read it before, and now all of a sudden, you didn't get much out of it, but now maybe you're a larger company now and you're running into different problems. That same book is going to make a lot more sense. And the reality is, by the way, I was listening to the book I just finished reading was a book by Grant Cardone, and he put out how successful people, they did this survey. They read an average of 50 books a year. I was blown away. I'm typically reading about 10 books a year right now. And I realized, wow, I mean, these people that are willing to learn, that's what's going to keep pushing, because I don't know what the next obstacle is going to be. But if I keep focusing on learning, I'm hoping that I'm going to learn something that's going to help me get over that next obstacle, get over the next hump, and keep growing.
I love that. It's interesting you bring up Grant Cardone. He's crazy. In a really good way. He's polarizing. He actually really, really awesome. We have a quote that hangs out in one of our offices of his that says, "Rich people have big libraries, poor people have big TVs." And I don't know how true that is or not, but you just think about that, and it's it kind of, I think, goes back to the principle of, line upon line. And then also just education, right? There's so many things competing for our time and for our attention. How do we spend the last hour or two of the day? Are we spending it relaxing, vegging out in front of TV, or are we tuning in our financial forecasting skills like maybe you've done for the last decade? And that's why you're better at it. I had a really awesome experience about 2 years with Grant Cardone. I don't know that he's exactly what he puts out there, meaning he's loud, brash, polarizing, great sales guy. But he did an event in Phoenix for first responders. I think it was about 2 years ago. And it was a really small thing. It was free. My brother's a firefighter in Phoenix. And so he got like 5 tickets. He said, "Hey, do you want to go? I know that you like this guy and whatever else." I said, "Yeah, that'd be great." And at the time, my 10-year-old son, who's 12 now, was able to come. And I mean, he and his wife were there. They were there for the day, but they were just really raw and open and genuine about some of the business struggles that they had. And he didn't pitch anything. It wasn't for anything other than someone had reached out to say, "Hey, Grant, come see us for this." And he came, and it was neat to see kind of a different side of him, more of a maybe human side of him. But I love listening to his stuff. Who else, as we kind of start, Tom, to round this out? I mean, anyone else that's either been influential for you in terms of your education or growth, or, I mean, you're doing big things, you're doing great things. What types of books do you read or things do you listen to? I mean, how do you continue to be relevant where you are in the position that you're in all the different roles that you're in, right?
Yeah. I mean, I just started reading a couple of books by Grant Cardone just probably in the past 6 months. Before that, I had, I read a lot of different people's stuff. Um, I I can look back at Robert Cialdini, wrote a book called Influence. I really think that's a neat book. I like to read stories about people that like pulled things off that were big as well, like either biographies or autobiographies. One that I really liked was the story about Elon Musk and Tesla, by the one that's written by Ashley Vance. Is just, as a entrepreneur, I'm reading it, and it's just amazing to see what he pulled off. There's another one about John Huntsman called Barefoot to Billionaire that is just unbelievable, how he came from nothing and made it to multi-billion. And not only that, it was really inspiring because it really gave me a lot of direction. Because I got to the point where every time we make goals, we kind of hit them, and my standard of living is pretty low. So if I make $2 or $3 million of profit 1 year, I'll probably spend, I don't know, 100,000, 200,000, and I don't know what to do with the other stuff. And I know the listeners are probably like, "Oh, gee, Tom, that's really tough." But that's
Tell us more about how hard your life is, Tom. Right?
No, it's like, and my standard of living didn't really go up that much. So I thought, well, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And I reading Barefoot to Billionaire. John Huntsman decided he wanted to cure cancer, and he said, "Well, I'm going to need a ton of money to pull this off." So he goes and starts making more deals. I thought, well, I've got to find some internal driver that's more than just like making some money to, get me going. I mean, I was literally, I was consulting because I was kind of bored with business, and I don't really have anything that I really want to spend the money on. So I didn't really know what to do. Going to ServiceTitan was this thing that was like, wow, here's this opportunity where I could work for a larger company. I could learn all these skills. I could do these things. I could make bigger goals outside of just earning money. I could learn a lot, and I could probably help out with some causes that I've always wanted to, but I just don't really have the skills to help out with yet. Anyway, that Barefoot to Billionaire by John Huntsman. For those of you that don't know who he is, he started a couple of chemical companies. He created styrofoam and things, and he started making plastics for things. And then he became worth several $billions, and donated a lot, 1.5 billion to charity before he passed away, including, by the way, $50 million to the country of Armenia, which I happen to be in, just total coincidence. because an earthquake happened, and he said, "Oh, I've got to go help them." And he donated a concrete factory, and he had his team build it and to help them rebuild after the earthquake. So yeah, a few of them, but that one's the one that's really sticking with me right now.
What do you think, Tom? I mean, like, what is that for you? Like, what is either your why or like, you know what I mean? You're choosing to fill your time in Armenia right now. Is part of that because you want to travel, or I mean, what would you say that is for you?
Yeah. Um, Sorry, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a little there. Um, I my my why happy. I've realized, I'd really like to basically give people, and especially the opportunity to learn how to run businesses. Um, and and I don't believe that running large businesses and being truly successful has to come from somebody that went to Harvard or went to Stanford or had a great pedigree like that. Um, Kids that grow up and don't have those opportunities that others have, I want to make it advantageous to them. Quite frankly, I've seen a lot of people be really successful in what I call the trades, which includes pest control, air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, uh, landscaping, anything. When I was working in college, right before I went to college, I was working for a landscaper laying down bricks, and this guy, he made a multi-million-dollar business that he started mowing people's lawns. And I feel like if we can just take those people that have a hard work ethic and are strong and willing and give them some business training and help them and maybe even have some seed money coming to help them start their businesses, they could really do something amazing. We have and ServiceTitan aligned with that, and that's why I want to go there. But it's something that we've realized, gosh, we've gone out and said, there's not enough people getting in the trades. So let's go make more trade schools. Let's make it free for them to get in. Let's do this and that. Well, the reality is there's a ton of trade schools out there and they're half empty. No one wants to go there. Gosh, when I went to business school, I told the owner of the air conditioning company, I want to go to business school so I never have to do air conditioning ever again. I mean, that was my mentality. The reality is in this country, we've basically taught people that, you're not good enough if you don't go to a 4-year institution. And only the people that go to the trades, those are people that don't make it. And now they speak one way and then they act another, which is why these kids don't want to go down that path. So I believe that if we can promote these industries, we can have a much more solid country. We can have more opportunities for these kids coming up. We can have a society that's more leveled off. You don't have to come from a lot of money in order to really be successful. And so I want to do things that help that out. I want to create things that allow kids to get that training, because the reality is I can see a lot of really hardworking people out there that if they just had a little bit of understanding of forecasting or business analytics, that it would just change the game for them, because they're great craftsmen and craftswomen and they just need that opportunity.
No, I love that. I'll give you the final word, Tom, as we kind of finally round this out. But there's a lot of business owners listening in the trades right now. There's a lot of managers inside of those companies that are listening, leads, those sorts of people all throughout the United States. I mean, what would you tell some of them now that are either struggling or really don't know what to do or that are stuck? I mean, what little tidbits or words of advice would you have for them?
I would say one of the scariest times in my life has always been when something's going wrong at my company that my family relies on and I don't know the answer, right? I mean, I know that I'm talking here and now we're bigger now, but there were many times where I had my back up against the wall. I thought, oh my gosh, I could go bankrupt and I don't know how to fix it. It's different when you know how to fix it. You just haven't done it yet and you're just being lazy. That's not the case most of the time. A lot of times something's going wrong. I don't know what it is. I would say to those people, and I would say to myself back then when I was in that situation, was whenever something's going wrong in your business and you don't know what to do, go back to the fundamentals. Sometimes you don't see how those fundamentals attach to the problem that you're facing. But if you go back to the fundamentals of making sure you price right, sell your service for more than it costs you, just find out what those costs are, make sure you're training properly, make sure you're hiring and firing properly, make sure that you're checking your financials, make sure that you're studying, make sure that you're incentivizing your employees. These are all the basics, right? And then I cannot tell you how many times I went back to that and sat down and said, all right, no more excuses. I'm going back. I'm doing this for sure. That thing that I was putting off where I said I need to train my employees like this, or that thing that I was putting off where I need to do business planning. Anytime I say the word business plan in front of a new entrepreneur, they're like, oh my gosh, oh, I hate it. It's like teaching my kid to, eat broccoli, right? It's one of those things that we know we don't want to do it, but we have to. When we go do those things, everything starts lining up. Those problems start getting fixed. And then sometimes you figure out how it was connected, but a lot of times you don't, and you're just happy that it's gone and you can move on. So I would say, go back to the fundamentals. You don't need to get a 4-year institution to go to a 4-year institution to get those fundamentals. You can buy the books. They're relatively cheap, $10, $15. Sit down and focus and put just as much effort into those books and those learnings as you would into, memorizing chemical or passing your pest control exam. And then it starts coming and it starts clicking and it starts picking up. And then you get to that point where it just takes off.
I love it. Tom, thank you so much. And thanks for your time. Everybody, thanks for tuning in and listening. Another wonderful session. We're dropping these once a week. So tune in next week. You'll see more exciting guests and be able to hear from people just like Tom, who have been there, done that, and really just accomplished and done incredible things. Tom, thank you so much. We'll catch everyone next time and later. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Multiply You podcast. You'll see us again soon when you subscribe for future episodes.